Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing Samson and Andrew's most recent versions to see how they will stack up against each other at this upcoming Olympia. I'll be using Samson's 2024 France Pro Physique, which we just saw this weekend, and Andrew's vastly improved 2024 Texas Pro package. I think that there's a pretty good possibility for these two to place side by side at the Olympia, and let me know in the comments where you think they're going to place and what you thought of this comparison. With that said, let's get into this comparison. The front double is a good pose for these two to start off with, however, I really think that this is going to be a win for Andrew regardless of who he stands next to. Although both share similarities within their bone structures and overall aesthetics, Andrew is far more blessed in the muscle belly fullness and roundness, especially in the arms and lats. I don't know if it's due to a difference in camera angles, but Andrew is absolutely smoking Samson in the lats, and his entire upper body looks nearly perfect. Samson actually has a smaller waistline and a better V-taper, however the sheer width, size, and detail for Andrew upstairs is a little too much for Samson. The legs are roughly even, with Samson having better outer sweeps and fuller looking quads and calves, whereas Andrew has deeper cuts and similar size. Overall, I'd give this pose to Andrew due to his more dominant upper body and better proportions, along with the finer details presented throughout the physique. The front lat spread is again a take-home pose for Andrew. I'll give Samson the benefit of the doubt and say that he wasn't fully locking in the pose due to it being at the end of his posing routine. However, he still loses in some very important areas. For example, Andrew handily wins in the lat display, chest and delt detail, and even the midsection with the perfectly symmetrical abdominal muscles. Samson is massive in areas like the chest, quads, and arms. However, his midsection does look a bit washed out, especially in the middle, and his lats are relatively highly inserted. He also isn't showing as impressive details in the legs or arms as Andrew. However, like I said, this could be due to, fast posing or even lighting differences between the two shows. The side chest is a pose where Samson's thickness and sheer density might carry him to a victory, since even with an unfavorable camera angle, he's doing battle in the side leg and upper body. Unfortunately, any footage or photos of Samson's show are very scarce. However, from this you can see that his side leg cuts are twice as deep, and even his midsection appears tighter, more defined, and even better controlled than Andrew's. Samson's longer arm muscle insertions are more favorable in a pose like this, making his arms look thicker than Andrew's, and his chest also looks more proportional to his delt. Andrew's delt almost overpowers the entire chest and arm, which isn't necessarily good when you look at the overall pose. The terrible angle for Samson probably makes this seem a lot closer than it is. However, I know many of you understand just how dominant Samson's mass is from the side, and therefore I really can't see Andrew beating a much thicker Samson. The rear double is a pose which both have brought up dramatically, with both having respectable backs and lower bodies. This isn't what I would call a strong pose for either by any means. However, side by side, they are pretty close. Andrew draws my attention first due to his hanging triceps and bubbly arms, as well as for those wide flared lats. He may not have the best hamstrings or glutes in the business. However, he's more dialed in the glutes compared to Samson and looks drier in the hamstrings. Samson may not be as dry or thin-skinned downstairs. However, his hamstrings are undeniably more developed and his back is thicker in the lower part. He isn't as wide in the lats, which we saw in the other front poses. However, he does, show massive arms and great delts. Like I said, this pose is extremely close. However, I think I'd actually go with Andrew here. I prefer his arms, shoulders, and back, and the drier condition in the legs is more favorable. Then again, Samson is incredibly dense, so I could see an argument for him winning as well. The rear lat spread is basically the same story, with Samson looking really dense in the back and lower body, but lacking the details of Andrew. Andrew looks pretty impressive in the back, however, for some reason he doesn't appear as thick upstairs. It's not like he's lacking any muscle, since he's clearly got some thick traps and wide lats. However, it might be the longer limbs throwing it off for me. Whatever the case, I still prefer Andrew in this pose since his lower body looks more shredded, his upper body shows considerably more detail, and his flow is a bit more pleasing than Samson's. Remember though, Samson still has 2 weeks to really dial it in, even further than he already has, so that could make all the difference in a close pose like this. The side tricep, like the side chest, is a win for Samson. Now we get a better look at the true size of his side leg, and you can really see just how dominant it is against Andrew. Andrew not only poses horribly, but his side leg, particularly in the hamstring, isn't impressive at all. He really looks awkward here, not positioning his arm or midsection correctly, which leads to a really uncomfortable look. It's a shame since he's got great individual body parts, however, as a whole, he looks very underwhelming. In contrast, Samson has a far more impressive arm and tricep, a great side leg, a tight and controlled midsection, and a generally perfected presentation. Definitely a win for him here, with Andrew looking like an amateur when it comes to posing. The ab and thigh is a no-brainer win for Andrew, with this being Andrew's best pose by far. His midsection and wide clavicles create one of the best upper bodies of all time, with those wide lats tapering into a small, picture-perfect midsection. His quads are feathered and deeply cut, and everything looks super aesthetic and perfectly pieced together. Samson looks relatively good, especially in the vacuum pose. However, his lats aren't nearly flared out as wide, and his upper body isn't as overwhelming as Andrew's. His quads might be better on paper with the fullness and the size. However, I don't think anyone but Hadi can really challenge Andrew in this pose, with Andrew's overall shot looking twice as good. The last pose, the most muscular, is a pretty good pose for Andrew. However, I think that Samson dominates a little too much in the arms, chest, and shoulders in this shot. Just compare the size of the arms, particularly the outer sweep of the tricep, and even the forearms between the two. Actually, neither are that good in the forearms, however, at least Samson doesn't look that flimsy. As a fan, I do prefer Andrew's aesthetic waist, finer details, and bubbly muscle bellies. However, Samson's dense physique is completely overpowering anything Andrew brings. I can only imagine what Samson with, 2 more weeks of refinements will look like, and hopefully he's able to really deliver. As it is, I actually think that Andrew comes out on top between these two versions, but with that said, Andrew is known for not peaking at the Olympia, whereas Samson might be able to tweak some things and, come in much better in 2 weeks, hopefully if he can. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, a like and sub would be awesome. And with that all said, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.